What happens when a love story admired by millions suddenly feels fragile? When silence becomes louder than words, and a mother's quiet presence turns into the most powerful signal of all. Tonight on LVT-SHOWBIZ, we explore a question that has left audiences across Asia, North America, and Europe holding their breath. Has Shu Kai truly reached a breaking point? And why is Songyun's mother now at the center of the storm? Stay with us, because this is not just a story about rumors. It is a story about love under pressure, family instinct, and the moment private emotions become public conversation. The relationship between Shu Kai and Songyun has long existed under a gentle yet unrelenting spotlight. In the entertainment world, visibility is both privilege and pressure. What once appeared as quiet companionship and mutual respect gradually became a shared narrative that audiences felt invited to witness. Over time, the public learned to read not only interviews and appearances, but also absences, moments when togetherness was no longer visible. This is where attention intensifies. A relationship under scrutiny does not unravel loudly, it thins, almost invisibly. Fewer shared moments invite more interpretation. Every pause becomes meaningful, every silence suggestive. The spotlight does not simply illuminate, it magnifies uncertainty. What makes this situation compelling is not the presence of conflict, but the lack of clarity. There are no definitive statements to anchor perception, only fragments that viewers instinctively connect. In this environment, love is no longer experienced privately. It is observed, analysed, and quietly weighed by those who feel emotionally invested. Under such light, even stability can feel fragile. And when the narrative shifts from certainty to possibility, the audience leans closer, not to intrude but to understand what has changed. In moments of relational tension, contrast often speaks louder than words. Here, the contrast lies between restraint and emotional openness. Silence, when sustained, becomes a form of communication, measured, controlled, and distant. Vulnerability, by contrast, is exposed and human, carrying risk with every honest expression. For many observers, this imbalance is emotionally unsettling. Silence can be interpreted as protection, avoidance, or exhaustion. Vulnerability, however, invites empathy. It reminds viewers of their own experiences, times when one person spoke from the heart while the other withdrew into quiet resolve. This dynamic creates an emotional asymmetry that viewers instinctively respond to. Silence feels heavy because it offers no direction. Vulnerability feels brave because it accepts uncertainty. Neither is inherently right or wrong, but together they form a tension that feels unresolved. In public life, especially under constant observation, silence may be a strategy, vulnerability may be a risk. When the two coexist without meeting, audiences sense a widening gap, not of affection, but of emotional timing. And it is this gap that draws attention, because it mirrors the most painful moments of human connection. When understanding arrives at different speeds, when a parent enters the narrative, the tone of the story shifts. This is no longer solely about two individuals navigating emotion. It becomes about protection, legacy, and responsibility. A mother's presence does not announce itself through confrontation. Instead, it is felt through steadiness and intention. Here, maternal involvement has been widely perceived not as interference, but as preparedness. It reflects a belief that care is not only emotional, but practical, that safeguarding dignity sometimes requires foresight rather than reaction. For many cultures, this resonates deeply. Family is not an external force, it is a foundation. What makes this role particularly compelling is its quietness. There is no public argument, no visible escalation, only a sense that boundaries are being considered and that outcomes, whatever they may be, are not being left to chance. This approach reframes strength as calm rather than confrontation. To viewers, this evokes both comfort and unease. Comfort because protection is reassuring, unease because it signals that the situation has reached a level of seriousness where preparation matters. In that stillness, audiences recognize a truth often left unspoken. Love may be emotional, but care is also strategic. Every relationship reaches a moment when feeling alone is no longer enough. When affection meets reality, love is asked to mature. This does not mean it weakens. It means it changes shape. The narrative here reflects that transition, from emotion-led connection to a phase shaped by responsibility, consequence, and long-term thinking. This is often the most difficult stage of any partnership. Romance thrives on possibility. Maturity requires decision. When circumstances demand clarity, love must either adapt or acknowledge its limits. For viewers, this shift feels sobering because it mirrors real-life experiences rarely spoken about openly. What draws attention is not the presence of difficulty, but the absence of denial. There is a sense that ideals are being quietly weighed against reality, that hope is still present, but no longer naive. This does not signal defeat. It signals honesty. Audiences respond because they recognize this moment. The point at which love stops being a dream and becomes a responsibility. Whether that responsibility leads to renewal or resolution remains uncertain, but the act of facing it already reflects growth. In this sense, love is not ending. It is being asked to tell the truth. The global response to this story reveals something important. People are not merely observing celebrities. They are recognizing themselves. Across cultures and generations, the themes resonate: imbalance, endurance, family involvement, and the fear of losing something once believed to be secure. What makes the narrative accessible is its emotional universality. The setting may be public, but the questions are intimate. How long should one wait? When does patience become self-erasure? And how does one honor love without losing oneself? Viewers from different backgrounds bring their own experiences into the interpretation. Some see perseverance, others see warning signs. This diversity of response is not division, it is reflection. The story becomes a shared space where personal memories surface quietly. In this way, the content transcends entertainment. It becomes a mirror rather than a spectacle. People stay engaged not for answers, but for understanding. And in recognizing their own struggles within the narrative, audiences feel less alone. That emotional recognition is what gives the story its enduring power. At its heart, this is not a story demanding conclusions. It is one inviting pause. In an era driven by instant opinions, restraint feels almost radical. The absence of definitive statements creates space, not for speculation, but for reflection. Judgment offers clarity, but reflection offers depth. When viewers resist the urge to assign blame, they engage more thoughtfully with the emotional layers presented. They begin to see complexity rather than conflict, humanity rather than headlines. This moment asks a quiet question. What does compassion look like when certainty is unavailable? Perhaps it looks like patience. Perhaps it looks like allowing stories to unfold without forcing an ending. By choosing reflection over judgment, the audience becomes part of a more respectful conversation, one that acknowledges that some experiences cannot be neatly categorized. In doing so, the story achieves something rare. It slows people down, it encourages empathy, and it reminds us that behind every public narrative lies a private reality, deserving not verdicts, but understanding. If you appreciate thoughtful storytelling that looks beyond the headlines and into the human heart, please subscribe to LVT-SHOWBIZ and join our growing global community. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for reflecting with us. Stay kind, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next story.